Hello and welcome. Today's exciting episode is another style one. So let's get stylish.
It's perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Perfect jacket.
So my last style episode was me taking the Loves to Sew podcast. They did this episode where they had a workbook, and on air they sort of worked through it, both of them together. And I did the workbook in my episode and told you what my answers were and explained thinking behind that. And it is really useful if you want to make your own cohesive wardrobe, capsule wardrobe, and you don't really know where to start. It is a good place to start, but I felt it was a little bit superficial, like not superficial totally, but it's like, are you preppy? Are you, gothic rock? Are you this? Are you that? And it's kind of like cling to a label and then sort of work from there. So yeah, it's sort of grated me the wrong way in that respect, but it is a good place to start if you just don't know where to start. Then a year or so later, they did another episode, sort of the same workbook, but it was responses from listeners. And that was really funny because you sort of have to come up with a 3-word label for your own style, and some of them are really amusing. But in that episode, the presenters also talked about their style evolution, and I was like, oh, okay, I mentioned in my last style episode, I'll do that. But then, yeah, I was doing the prep for that episode and oh my gosh, my life is just horrific. And based on things that happened to me, I sort of changed the way I looked just, as a result of things that happened. And it was really negative, and there's words you can't say on YouTube, which is fair enough. But yeah, it's really hard to talk about my life without, either if you're not mentioning the terrible things that happened to you, it's like you are in denial or something, which I'm not. But because of the restrictions of YouTube, it was just like, okay, it's not going to be a fun episode. I won't talk about my style evolution. But Love to Sew has this other podcast, episode 144, and it's Style School with Stasia Savasik. And she is just this woman who wasn't, she just, as she says, she broke up with fashion in her teens. And then it wasn't until after she had her first child that she sort of got reconnected, and she realized that fashion isn't just some frivolous thing you should ignore, that if you are in touch with, your style and who you are, and that's reflected through your clothes that you wear, then it can be an armor that gives you confidence. And I really love her philosophy. So it's not as superficial as doing a workbook and going, oh, this is my label, I'm going to cling to that. It's more of from a place of authenticity, and it really resonates with me. So I'm just going to talk about that for this episode, and I will talk a little bit about me as well. But yeah, I just think it's a really good episode. I'll put a link in the description box below, and I highly recommend you listen to it because I just really like it. And I might still do an episode about my style evolution. I just have to figure out an upbeat way of talking about myself. But anyway, this is Victor and Rolf, this dress. Isn't it amazing? The runway was like all blacked out, so you couldn't see the black column dress. All you could see was the tulle. So amazing. Stasia has this style school. I'm not sponsored. I just think this sounds really cool. And I'll put a link to her website below as well. And it's 5 weeks, and you sort of do an online course, and you in a group of like 40 women, and you get to chat. And yeah, so the first week you talk about who you are at your core. And when she talks about it, she's like, who were you before anyone ever damaged you? And I was like, Jesus, or I don't even know. But so I didn't really understand it. And then she's like, who are you in the core of your very being if, no damage had ever been done to you? Or like, well, what is your place of strength that you operate from? What do you want to get in touch with inside you? And yeah, so are you brave? Are you resilient? Are you, because she says that a lot of people come there and they just say sort of off the cuff things like, oh, I'm organized. I'm, a people person. And it's not that. It's like, what is your motivating force, like your primal motivating power sort of thing? I know it's a bit hippy dippy, but yeah, I found it really useful. And yeah, she tells this story about how she got into style and why it's her thing. And she had her first child, and the child was born with all these health difficulties and also physical differences. And yeah, so it made her as a parent incredibly defensive of her, protective of her child. And she just made all these matching outfits with matching hair bows and things for her daughter to make her, if she looks perfect, people won't pick on her sort of thing. That was her coping mechanism and a way of protecting her child. And but her little girl really wanted to wear shirts and bow ties and things like that. And that was where she got her power from. She really loved these outfits that she chose, and that empowered her. And then Stasia, the mom, was like, actually, that's really cool. This child knows who she is. And then it made her think about who she was in her core. And so then she went to the thrift stores and tried on different outfits. And she's like, oh, this one makes me feel really good about myself. It's really empowering. Why is that? And then the next day she'd wear something else and she's like, oh, this does not make me feel empowering at all. This makes me feel like I've got, big thighs and this and that. So yeah, in week 1, they find their power words or something. Basically, when you dress yourself from a place of desperation, you look like you're trying too hard. Whereas if you dress yourself from a place of authenticity, you look like yourself no matter what you're wearing. So yeah, that's kind of what week 1 is. And I think you do that first just so that you sort of know, it's something to fall back on whenever you're making decisions in the next, few weeks. You're like, well, this is my keyword and this is my authentic self and this is what I'm working from. So then week 2, you look at your body, not like this is what my size is, this is what I am. It's more about just the proportions of your body. She talked about herself and she's like, well, I have big hips and I used to wear tiny tops and big baggy trousers to sort of cover my hips, but it made me look like a big triangle. So now I wear figure hugging trousers and it's just so much more flattering, and maybe a boat neck top to sort of give the visual appearance that the shoulders are a bit wider, and it evens everything out. And for me, I have narrow shoulders and a short torso. How I work that out is I just sort of wear a cropped jacket, and this is one of my early jackets, so it isn't done there, but in my jackets that I've done more recently, I'll do a wider neckline so it sits a little further away, so it just visually it makes it look like I have normal size shoulders rather than my super petite ones. So yeah, and also I have long legs, so I have the choice of relative to my torso, I have long legs, so I can either decide to play up the fact that my legs are longer than average, or I can play it down and sort of dress so that my body looks like normal proportions. So it's just about know what you're working with so you can go, do you want to dress it up to lean into this? Do you want to dress it down to sort of look this way, more conservative, more something? And yeah, it depends on what is your place of power and how do you feel most authentic. And yeah, it's just about knowing what you're working with so that you can go from there. Then in week 3, they look at colours and patterns. So you sort of you're supposed to look at all different ones and really challenge yourself, and sort of, if you've stayed away from particular colours, lean into that and see why it made you uncomfortable. Did it make you uncomfortable because it was too authentic and you felt safer in something that wasn't as you? Or, so if you always wear black, go for a week without wearing black. If you always wear like red and navy blue, then go for more like less traditional colors for a week and just sort of feel, keep wearing it past the anxiety and see how it makes you feel. And if you always wear lipstick, try going a week without. Or if you always wear red lipstick, try different colors or try lip gloss or none at all. So yeah, it's just about getting out of your rut and your safety zone and trying other things. And yeah, she also mentioned the 20-80 rule. So most people wear, for 80% of the time, they only wear 20% of their wardrobe. And yeah, so maybe try putting everything that you always get, all your defaults, put them all out for dry cleaning and all in the wash at the same time, and sort of just test yourself about where you would go. Or just, if you're not brave enough to do that, put them all like in the garage or, somewhere in a storage box, and so that they're harder to get to, and just see what happens when you're not constantly going for your safeties. And because we're sewish, you can just whip up something new that you never would usually wear and just try it for a week. If you don't like it, you can just pull it apart, like unstitch it and make something else with it later. So yeah, just get really experimental. Spend a few dollars at the thrift store, or make something from your spare scraps of fabric or a bit of fabric that you've never known if you like the pattern or not. Just make a simple skirt up with it, and you can always undo it and use it for something else. Yeah, just push yourself out of your comfort zone in ways that will give you data, like, why did I feel uncomfortable in this? Was it a good uncomfortable? Was it hedging me closer to my place of authenticity, or did it swing me further away? So you're just sort of testing the waters to see who you are and what makes you feel fake and what makes you feel authentic. For me, when she was talking about how her first child was born with all the difficulties, it reminded me of when I was born, because I was born with a massive growth on the side of my neck, and I was too small for them to operate and remove it straight away. So it had to stay, but it was incredibly dangerous. Like, if it had ruptured, then it would have been an emergency. So my mum, for 2 months, she was just like on tender hooks. She had to keep me perfectly still at all times, and of course, it was a newborn baby, so of course there was all that as well. But every time she went out, because she always had to have me with her, every time she went out, strangers would like pull back the protective blanket on the stroller, and they'd be like, let's see the baby. And so her panic was that they would touch and inadvertently cause a medical emergency, but also because I had this massive purple hideous growth on the side of my neck and I was this tiny little angelic baby, they were just horrified by the juxtaposition of this monstrous growth on this tiny little thing. And they were just mean to her. They were so incredibly mean to her, and they said horrific things. And I think for the rest of her life, she was traumatized by that. After 2 months, I was big enough, and the risk was no longer in me being too small. It was in the growth being too big. So I went to hospital, and yeah, when I was there, I got this, the volunteer staff, they give each of the babies toys so that they're never alone, because obviously the parents have to go home and look after the rest of their family. And so they gave me this hideous frog that was it must have been bigger than me, and it was kind of like a toad. It had all these lumpy bits and everything. But I realized my orange Chanel jacket with the green beads on it, that's very much like my toy frog was, because it was just the most hideous colors. It was bright green on the top. It was very three-dimensional, and the fabric on the top was very bubbly as well. And then the underside was like a quilting floral cotton. So yeah, to this day, I absolutely love ridiculously loud prints. And I also love textured fabrics. It also explains why I always have an impulse to hug this jacket whenever I like get it out and whenever I see it on the rack. I just love the amount of love I have for this jacket is ridiculous. So yeah, the fact that it reminds me of the toy frog completely explains it. Anyway, so week 4 in her course, you experiment with accessories. So if you normally wear accessories, that would involve you not hiding behind your accessories. But if you normally don't wear accessories, or you're stuck in you've got the same 5 things that you always put on, then you again go to a thrift store, or if you have kids or grandkids, borrow their jewelry, or use scraps from your fabric stash and tie them around your wrist, or tie them around your headband as a headband or a headscarf, or around your neck. Just experiment with different things. Just spend a few dollars at a dollar store and with loads of different things or something like that. I used to wear a lot of jewelry when I was younger, but now I like not wearing any. I like not having any. Feels more authentic to me, but each their own. Stasia says she used to love pearls. She used to think they were like so fancy and she aspired to wear them. But then she would wear them and she felt fake. So then one day she decided to do, she saw a woman wearing raw, like uncut, unpolished gems. And she's like, oh, I should try that. And yeah, it's more her. It's kind of more rustic and authentic. And then in week 5, you do a closet clear out and you create your closet. So again, that thing of 80-20. So she says that all the women in the course, they try to cut 50% of their wardrobe, so that instead of having this crammed full wardrobe of stuff that is not great, they have just less stuff, but it's all awesome stuff that they totally want to wear. And it's that idea of you want your wardrobe, if you have a walk-in wardrobe, you want it to look like the tiniest, coolest, chicest vintage store in the world, or clothing store in the world. So yeah, less is more. So I definitely recommend you listen to that podcast because, yeah, she just speaks. She's so eloquent and enthusiastic. And also, I think once you've listened to that and you sort of worked out what makes you feel authentic and what is your style, then I think it's good to go back to the Love to Sew workbook and decide, because it's got at the back, it's got these sheets where you plan your next 3 projects based on what your style is now and what you want it to be. And I think those worksheets are really good. It's like, what's the picture like? Where's a sample of the fabric? Where are you going to get the pattern from? And all these sort of things, just so you can jot it all down and not forget any of the details. So that's what I'm going to do. Because now that I've realised why I love this orange Chanel so much. Oh, and the Italian silk of the lining is like browns and oranges and all autumn tones, which is what the underside of my toy frog was. Anyway, so this makes me feel safe and protected, and it's like my armor. So I was thinking maybe I'll try and be brave and step into, if you watched my other style episode, it's like, what colors, at one point during the worksheet, it's like, what colors do you like to wear? And I was like, well, basically everything but red, purple, and any color that's in a bruise, basically. And it's because, yeah, that growth on the side of my neck that had all the strangers saying horrific things. So I thought I'd lean into that and sort of make friends with the horrible. And, use all the purples and the browns and all the bruise colors. And maybe I've got some bugle beads in scarlet red, maybe thread them through it as well. So I'm going to make a beaded jacket out of all these things. And yeah, once I finish this one, then I'll have the toy frog, I'll have the growth, and then I'll do one that's me. I don't know what that is yet, but I'll work on it. So that is it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching. And the pictures are, some of them are my work and some of the others are from Pinterest. And yeah, I definitely recommend listening to that podcast because, yeah, she's just so good at talking about it and being enthusiastic, and it's really infectious. And yeah, thanks again for watching, and I hope you find your style, your authentic style.